slow breath out, and welcome to this second episode of Unadulterated Love, being recorded on the 3rd of February 2023. I'm Colin Coward. I'm an Anglican priest, I'm gay, I'm an activist, and I'm a contemplative. A friend in New Zealand told me that I needed to smile more often after he'd watched the first episode of the vlog. I usually smile a lot, and I'm probably trying to compensate, or was in that first episode, by becoming more serious and considered. But actually it's on a serious note that I want to begin this second episode. Some years ago I had the good fortune to meet Frank Mugisha, a gay Ugandan human rights activist, at a meeting in the Houses of Parliament. Last Tuesday, Frank wrote an article for the Ugandan Monitor, an article to mark 12 years since his fellow activist, David Kato, was murdered. As well as being an activist, David was a teacher and considered to be the father of Uganda's gay rights movement. He was once described as Uganda's first openly gay man. Just days before his death, David had won a lawsuit against a magazine which had published his name and photograph, identifying him as gay and calling for him to be executed. The magazine printed several photos on the cover of other men alleged to be gay with the caption, "Hang them, they are after our kids." Frank ended his article this week by noting that evangelical and Catholic churches in Uganda continue to be important channels for fueling homophobic rhetoric. Just 4 weeks ago, friends of mine in Kenya and Uganda began sending me links to reports about the discovery of another murdered gay man. The body of Edwin Chiloba, a popular gay rights activist, fashion designer and model, was found stuffed in a metal box, dumped on the edge of a road near Eldoret in Kenya's Rift Valley. He had been strangled, socks stuffed in his mouth, jeans tied around his face. News of his violent death triggered strong suspicions and fear among my friends. They assumed, not unfairly, that it was another gay hate crime. And a third story, this time taking place in London 2 years ago. On a Sunday in November 2022, Alan Griffin, a Church of England priest, took his own life. Father Alan was openly gay. He had endured a year of torment over an inquiry into unsubstantiated claims against him. Allegations and gossip that accused him of abusing children, having sex with people under the age of consent, and of visiting prostitutes. These false allegations were compounded by buck-passing within the Church of England. The head of operations in the Diocese of London included these false claims, in part of a brain dump of information, compiled just as he was retiring. And as he was retiring, he decided that it was up to the Archdeacon to deal with it. The Archdeacon said that assessing whether it was gossip or true was not his job, and he left it for the Director of Safeguarding. The Director of Safeguarding said that deciding what to do with it should be for the safeguarding professionals. As it happened, at this time, Father Griffin was leaving the Church of England for the Roman Catholic Church, and so, without pretty much further ado, the dossier was passed to them. No one took responsibility for making proper, reasonable decisions based on evidence, just on gossip and rumours, and the consequences were tragic. One of the key issues arising from Father Alan's suicide is the official stance towards gay people within the Church of England. until gay and lesbian clergy experience full unconditional acceptance, there will always be some of us who feel unable to speak openly, to seek pastoral support, or express fears and concerns when unforeseen events arise. And this brings me to next week and the General Synod, and the outcome of the Living in Love and Faith process. Will the Church of England finally make the radical changes necessary to achieve the new radical inclusion of LGBTQIA+ people that was promised by the archbishops in 2017? Or will, as I fear is almost certain, any commitment to the radical change necessary be compromised by the necessity to maintain unity in the Church, being as nice as possible to everyone in the Church, opponents of change, as well as those of us campaigning for radical change? When, after qualifying as an architect 50 or more years ago, I was persuaded to allow my name to go forward as a candidate for ordination in the Church of England, a close friend of mine warned me not to become a nice priest, a complacent, ever-smiling, ingratiating, please-all priest, one who smiled an awful lot. Even then, 50 years ago, I was unlikely to become too nice, but inevitably I had a tendency to want to please other people, bishops, parishioners, other clergy, whoever. Others will have their opinion, who know me well, as to whether or not I succumbed to niceness. I've always been a somewhat determined, independent person, holding to my intuition and wisdom, and I've learnt that this can be quite scary for some people. I arrived at the selection conference where my acceptability would be assessed, aware that I might be asked about my sexuality, confronting me with whether or not to risk being open and honest. The question wasn't asked. The selectors were two nice, respectable Anglicans, not intrusive. A year later, having been accepted, I found myself at Westcott House, Cambridge. As it happened, the most gay-friendly environment I'd ever experienced in my life up until that time. But the Church of England, and the Anglican Communion, and the majority of Christian denominations are not gay-friendly places. They are unsafe, sometimes dangerous, as Father Allen discovered just over 2 years ago. Gay people can become tormented into taking their own lives. And in other provinces of the Anglican Communion, where the attitude to LGBTQIA+ people is hostile at best, aggressively homophobic and transphobic at worst, their very lives are at risk. Right now, I'm having a problem, not so much with my own nice tendencies, and I do still have them, but with the niceness of others in the Church. On 2 different forums, my beliefs, as expressed in the first blog, have been described as Gnostic. On Thinking Anglicans, Peter, who doesn't reveal his first name, commenting on my first vlog, says that it is exemplary in its clarity, but that what I describe as my foundational belief is pure Gnosticism. Took it to be a criticism. Meanwhile, over on Anglican Unscripted episode 784, C of E, don't worry about it, Kevin Carlson and George Conger of the Episcopal Church USA also described my ideas as Gnostic. Now, as it happens, I've met both Kevin and George, and I like them. They're both really likeable guys. Nice. But they are members of the traditionalist or orthodox clan, talking at length in every episode, smiling broadly, about news items recording the scandals of pro-LGBTQIA+ bishops and churches and individuals like me, who dare to pursue ambitions contrary according to them to the will of God. I have other really nice friends like Kevin and George in the Church of England, people I meet and talk with and whose company I enjoy and value. Accusing me of being Gnostic, if they are indeed accusations, seems to be a way of dismissing me as having any authority, real authority, biblical, orthodox, traditional authority, as a Christian priest and activist, somebody who is not able to speak authentically as I campaign for equality. The House of Bishops, preparing for presentations and a debate next week at Synod on completion of the LLF process, are caught in the trap themselves of negotiating how to be nice or not too nice or whatever. They would avoid the debate entirely, I think, if they could. The Archbishop of Canterbury is in an invidious position, damned if Synod agrees with the Bishop's proposals, especially internationally, and damned by others if Synod doesn't agree. In the first vlog I said that the Church of England and the Anglican Communion are primarily divided by dramatically irreconcilable ideas about God rather than sexuality. Some, on the basis of what they believe in the Bible, read in the Bible, believe in a God who has dogmatic ideas about how human beings are allowed to behave. Their God is discriminatory and prejudiced, I think, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, sometimes racist. Others, including myself, believe in a God whose essence is unconditional, infinite, intimate love, also based on what we read in the Bible and on our experience of the mystery of the divine presence in our lives. How did humankind in general, and Christianity in particular, get into this entrenched state of corporate homophobia, transphobia and prejudice? A state that results in abuse, neurosis, shame, guilt, depression, suicide and murder. I'm not going to begin to try and answer that question, but the question haunts me and should haunt every member of General Synod and all the nice people, those who are my friends, both conservatives and progressives. You know, if humankind got itself into this state, the lesson to be drawn from the dramatically changed attitudes to LGBTQIA+ people in British society in a period of 20 years should give us reasons for hope. If the UK can become a generally pro-gay, pro-equality country, legalising equal marriage within such a short period, why not the Church, where these matters have been explored for over 5 decades? What will become next week of the Archbishop's much vaunted commitment to a radical new Christian inclusion? Will Anglican niceness prevail? The anxiety of upsetting those who disagree with us, even if it's at the cost of enduring ridicule by the secular masses in the UK, who have overcome niceness and prejudice to celebrate with their gay and lesbian sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, and cousins and colleagues and mates and friends, celebrating their loves and lives and their marriages. Will the Synod Chamber celebrate with them, resonating with the conviction that the God of Jesus Christ is indeed freely known and experienced as unconditional, infinite, intimate, divine love? Thank you for watching.